Have you ever wondered, if you eat a little ginger every day, how exactly does your body really change? Not a vague feeling of being healthier, but very specific, very biological reactions that quietly unfold inside you, starting from the very first bite. Ginger is not a new wellness trend. Humans have used it for more than 4,000 years, appearing simultaneously in Indian cuisine and traditional Chinese medicine. And the reason it has lasted that long is not its spicy aroma, but the fact that the human body genuinely responds to it. The main active compounds in ginger, gingerol, and shogal do more than stimulate taste. They act directly on the digestive system, the immune system, the nervous system, and metabolism. The first thing many people notice when using ginger regularly is that their stomach feels more settled. Not because they eat less, but because ginger stimulates saliva and gastric secretions in the right rhythm, helping food move through the system more smoothly. That is why ginger has long been used for nausea, motion sickness, and morning sickness. Ginger does not suppress symptoms. It calms smooth muscle contractions in the gut and brings the digestive system back toward a more stable state. Then comes a subtler change. You get sick less often. Not because ginger is a miracle drug, but because it improves circulation and activates immune cells such as white blood cells, macrophages, and NK cells. When the immune system is awakened in the right way, the body responds more quickly to viruses and bacteria, instead of letting problems build up before erupting into illness. Many people with chronic headaches or migraines also notice something interesting. The pain is milder and it fades faster. Biologically, ginger inhibits certain inflammatory enzymes and affects blood flow in the brain. Both directly related to migraines, it does not stop an attack instantly like medication, but it lowers the underlying inflammatory baseline over time. When it comes to blood sugar metabolism, ginger shows a very practical effect: less fatigue after meals. Studies suggest that ginger improves insulin sensitivity and helps the pancreas release insulin more efficiently. This is especially important for people with irregular eating habits and long-term stress factors that send blood sugar levels on a roller coaster ride. Few people talk about it, but ginger is also connected to mental state. In traditional medicine, ginger is used to warm and stabilize the body. From a modern perspective, it is associated with reduced neuroinflammation and support for a calmer feeling. It is not a sedative, but it helps lower the background level of biological stress that many people live with every day. Some laboratory studies even show that ginger may inhibit the growth and spread of certain cancer cells and reduce oxidative stress in the brain, a factor linked to memory decline and Alzheimer's disease. This is not a promise of treatment, but a signal that what you eat every day is quietly shaping the body you will have in the distant future. Of course, ginger is not completely harmless. It can affect blood sugar, interact with heart medications and blood thinners, and may not be suitable for people with gallstones. What matters is not the more, the better, but understanding where your body currently stands. There is one thing that health professionals encounter very often, but rarely say directly in videos. Most people give up not because ginger doesn't work, but because they don't understand how the body responds over time. Biology does not operate on the logic of take it today, feel better tomorrow. It operates on thresholds and accumulation. In real clinical practice and nutritional counseling, I repeatedly see the same pattern. In the first week of using ginger consistently, most people feel almost nothing beyond a mild warmth in the stomach. In the second week, some begin to notice less bloating after meals and more stable gut movement. By the third week, something more interesting appears. Morning energy crashes become less severe, and that vague sense of unexplained sluggishness gradually fades. This is not a subjective illusion. It is related to baseline inflammation in the body beginning to decrease, and the digestive system no longer consuming excessive energy to deal with dysfunction. From a scientific standpoint, gingerol and shogal in ginger act on inflammatory pathways such as COX and LOX pathways that are also linked to pain, fatigue, and reduced concentration. When baseline inflammation is lower, the body no longer needs to stay in a constant alarm mode. And when the body is not living in alarm, The brain finally has room to focus, to calm down, and to recover. A very real-life experience many people share is that regular ginger intake reduces the need for stomach medications. Not because ginger strongly neutralizes acid, but because it helps regulate gastric emptying speed and reduces spasms. When food does not get stuck for too long, the stomach does not need to increase acid production to rescue itself. This is why ginger often helps people whose heartburn is driven by stress, not just by spicy food or late meals. With blood sugar, ginger does not work by pulling numbers down. Its effect is quieter. It helps cells respond better to insulin. In modern life, many people are not diabetic, but live in a state of early insulin resistance, feeling tired after eating, sleepy, heavy-headed. When ginger is used consistently, especially before or with meals, many notice less post-meal drowsiness. That is a sign that metabolism is being smoothed out. One area that is rarely emphasized is the respiratory system. Gingerol has the ability to relax smooth muscle in the airways. In practice, people who often experience mild chest tightness, cold-related coughs, or discomfort from weather changes frequently feel that breathing becomes easier when drinking warm ginger tea. Not because ginger treats asthma, but because it reduces airway constriction and mucus secretion. And then there is a change that is hard to measure with tests, but obvious to anyone who pays attention. A sense of steadiness. Ginger does not make you excited. It makes you less reactive. When inflammation decreases, when blood sugar swings are gentler, when digestion runs more smoothly, the autonomic nervous system also settles. Many people describe it in very similar ways. Deeper sleep, less irrational restlessness, slower reactions to small stimuli. But for ginger to truly work, real-world experience points to one crucial principle: moderate and consistent dosing. One slice of fresh ginger, one light cup of ginger tea, or a small amount of ginger in meals is enough. Taking too much, making it too strong, or treating ginger as a fix-everything remedy often leads to gut discomfort and early abandonment. And if you are still watching at this point, you may be asking yourself whether such a small habit is really worth maintaining. The scientific answer is this: the body does not need you to do dramatic things. It only needs consistent signals that the internal environment is safer than yesterday. Ginger, in many cases, is exactly such a signal. In the next part, I will explain more clearly who truly benefits from daily ginger, who should be cautious, and which ways of using it are smartest to avoid backfiring, because in health, understanding correctly is always more important than doing more. There is a very interesting moment that I often encounter after years of working with the human body, and if you are watching up to this point, you may have experienced it too. It is the moment when people realize that the body starts to become quieter, fewer, small, nagging discomfort signals. Not because every problem has disappeared, but because the internal systems no longer have to constantly cry for help. From a physiological perspective, this is directly related to the autonomic nervous system, the part that controls heart rate, digestion, breathing, and stress responses. When baseline inflammation decreases and blood sugar becomes more stable, the sympathetic nervous system no longer needs to stay in a constant state of tension. Ginger, through gingerol and shogal, makes a small but steady contribution to this process. Not strong, not sudden, but consistent enough to create a lasting trend. In real-life experience, many people describe a very relatable change. Mornings feel less heavy, not alert in a caffeine-like way, but a sense that the body is ready to step into the day without having to drag itself forward. This is especially noticeable in people who previously lived with low-grade chronic inflammation, irregular eating, late sleep, prolonged stress. When baseline inflammation drops, energy is no longer leaked into unnecessary defensive reactions. One detail that is rarely mentioned is body odor and breath. When digestion becomes smoother and harmful gut bacteria no longer dominate, morning breath often becomes more neutral, and the sensation of internal heat decreases. This is not a cosmetic issue, but a sign that fermentation and breakdown processes in the gut are better regulated. In older individuals, or those who often experience mild joint pain, ginger also shows a very quiet effect: reduced morning stiffness. The reason lies in ginger's natural anti-inflammatory properties, acting on inflammatory cytokines. It does not relieve pain the way medication does, but it reduces the underlying causes that allow pain to appear. But there is one key point that experience repeats again and again. Ginger does not work well in a body that is constantly being pushed. If you use ginger but still eat too fast, sleep too little, and live under prolonged stress, its effects will be very limited. Biology does not operate independently of lifestyle context. Ginger only truly works when it becomes part of a rhythm that slows life down, even slightly. This is when many people start asking the right question: when should ginger be used for the greatest benefit? Practical experience suggests that using ginger in the early morning or before main meals helps activate digestion and metabolism more effectively. In the evening, if used at all, it should be very mild to avoid overstimulation in sensitive individuals. If you have stayed with the video up to this point, you may be sensing something important. Health is not about adding more and more things, but about removing what forces the body to constantly defend itself. Ginger is not a solution to every problem, but it is one of the simplest ways to send the body a very clear message: you are being cared for. And in the next part, I will share the most common mistakes people make when using ginger every day. Mistakes that lead many to believe ginger does not suit them, when in reality, they were using it incorrectly from the very beginning. This is the part that many people should have heard from the beginning, because in reality, most statements like "ginger doesn't suit me" come from very ordinary, very human mistakes, not because ginger itself is the problem. The first mistake, and also the most common, using ginger like a stimulant. Many people brew very strong ginger tea and drink it on an empty stomach with expectations of burning fat, detoxing, or waking the body up. Biologically, this can overstimulate the stomach lining, especially in people who already have low-grade inflammation, high stress, and elevated cortisol. Instead of calming the system, ginger in this context becomes a stress signal. The body responds with gut heat, irritation, even nausea, and people conclude that ginger doesn't suit them when the real issue is dosage and timing. The second mistake: using ginger inconsistently but expecting consistent results. Biology does not register impulsive actions. Drinking ginger for 2 days, skipping 3 days, then consuming a lot over the weekend does not create beneficial adaptation. Gingerol and Shogal require stable repetition to influence baseline inflammation, metabolism, and the nervous system. Without consistency, the body simply doesn't learn anything. The third mistake: using ginger to compensate for an overly stressful lifestyle. I see this very often in people who do mental work, sleep little, eat quickly, and live with high stress. They drink ginger, but still eat late dinners, remain under prolonged stress, and rely heavily on caffeine. In that context, ginger is like someone trying to clean a room while objects are still being thrown in continuously. Science calls this a background effect. No herb works well when the physiological baseline is constantly being disrupted. The fourth mistake: using ginger at the wrong time of day. Late in the evening, for sensitive individuals, ginger can mildly stimulate the nervous system, making sleep lighter. When sleep is compromised, nearly all of ginger's anti-inflammatory and blood sugar regulating benefits are neutralized. This is why many people say, "Ginger makes me feel hot and keeps me awake," while the same dose taken in the morning feels completely comfortable. The fifth mistake, and one that few people notice: interpreting initial reactions as negative signs. In the first few days, some people may notice mild gut sounds, changes in bowel movements, or a stronger sensation of warmth. These are often signs that the digestive system is adjusting, not dangerous reactions. Quitting too early prevents the body from adapting. Of course, if there is pain, persistent nausea, or strong discomfort, that is when stopping is appropriate, but in most cases, simply reducing the dose is enough, not eliminating ginger entirely. And there is an even subtler mistake, psychological in nature, expecting ginger to do something obvious. Ginger does not energize you instantly like coffee. It does not cause rapid weight loss like medication. What it does is far harder to notice. It reduces the things that force the body to strain every day. Less inflammation, less volatility, less overreaction. That is why patient people are the ones who feel its effects most clearly. If you have stayed with the video up to this point, you have probably realized something very important. The problem is not ginger. It is how we treat the body while using it. And now, to close this entire story, I want to say one thing very plainly. No advertising, no exaggeration, no rosy promises. Ginger does not heal your illnesses for you. Ginger only helps your body fight less every day. Science shows that ginger affects inflammation, metabolism, digestion, and the nervous system in a gentle but sustained way. Real-life experience shows that the people who benefit the most are not those who drink the strongest ginger, but those who use just enough, consistently, and with respect for their own biological rhythm. A slice of ginger in a meal. A light cup of ginger tea in the morning. No rushing, no forcing, no expectation of instant results. And oh, if you ask me what the smartest way to use ginger in real life is, the answer is very simple. Use ginger as a signal of safety for the body, not as a tool to force it to change. When the body feels safe, it self-regulates. That is a core biological principle that many modern health trends have forgotten. And perhaps the most important thing after everything we have talked about is not ginger at all. It is this question. How long has it been since you last sent your body the message that nothing needs to be so urgent anymore? If this video helps you understand your body a little better or makes you look at a familiar habit through a different lens, press subscribe so you don't miss the next videos about body science explained in everyday language, without fear-mongering, without extremes. And if you think a friend or family member is also living in a state of fatigue, digestive imbalance, or prolonged stress without understanding why, share this video with them. Sometimes, a small habit understood correctly can change the way someone treats themselves entirely. Thank you for staying until the very last seconds. Taking care of the body does not need to be complicated. It only needs enough understanding and enough patience.